observance of human rights. Underlying that like-minded community, there is nonetheless an inexhaustible cultural and ideological variety among the participating states. The Council of Europe's Convention now stretches from the Protestant north to the Catholic south, out to Islamic part of Turkey, part of Europe, Turkey, and now includes the former, many of the former constituents of the Soviet bloc. It's the role of national democratic institutions in Europe to make the appropriate choice in a given context from among those differences of approach which may legitimately be adopted when implementing the same human rights from one country to another or from one government to another in the same country. Secondly, as regards international human rights protection against national conduct other than outright oppression of the population and attacks on human dignity, universality is situated more in the abstract conception of a right and in the principles and values which should govern the exercise and possible restriction of the rights, whereas, on the other hand, the practical application in concrete circumstances is more a matter for settlement through national democratic processes within each country. In the European experience, universality does not therefore entail uniformity of implementation of all human rights in all circumstances. It does not refuse to recognize the cultural, political, religious, social, and other particularities of different societies. It does not destroy democratic discretion, but imposes on national authorities the respect of shared principles and values when exercising that discretion. In sum, within legitimate limits, and the challenge of the European system of human rights protection is to determine those limits in an ongoing manner for the satisfaction of all. So that's the role of the Strasbourg Court. It accommodates variety in how human rights are to be applied in practice. Thirdly, in resolving the tension between universality of generally phrased human rights standards and democratic discretion how to choose the measures implementing such rights, international enforcement bodies such as the Strasbourg Court have to strike a delicate balance. They must not abdicate to nationalist pressures their responsibility for assuring effective human rights protection of vulnerable individuals in society who are liable, and its particular minorities, who are liable to suffer from the excesses of majoritarian rule. Yet they must resist the temptation to substitute their personal choice for that of national democratic institutions. For the Strasbourg Court, in successfully identifying in each case the implications of the universality of human rights in relation to national democratic discretion, is by no means a self-evident truth of the kind that Thomas Jefferson had in mind when he drafted the American Declaration of Independence. And then the final point is that the practice of human rights protection under the European Convention over the last 50 years has demonstrated that reconciling regional particularism and universality is possible through, firstly, an adaptation of the textual enunciation of the rights to regional realities, and secondly, through a flexible approach to the concrete application of human rights in different countries and at different epochs. the flexible approach to implementation does not nonetheless give a carte blanche to national authorities to do whatever they want, since the essence of the right must remain untouched, and the scope that is left to national authorities is ultimately determined not by each state, but by an independent international court. On the other hand, as witnessed by some of the rather virulent recent critiques accusing the Strasbourg Court of interventionist tendencies, the European experience has also highlighted the predicament inherent in arbitrating between international enforcement of human rights and the liberty of democratic societies to choose their own destiny. There is no simple blueprint for striking the right balance, and I would finish by saying that we should wish the Strasbourg Court well in the accomplishment of its rather difficult task. I would now like to put on my hat as chairman of the session and to say that I hope that the papers given today have made a contribution, if only a modest one, towards achieving the objectives of the Academy of Institutions and Cultures. It only remains for me to thank firstly the speakers for the work and the thinking that they have done on our behalf. Secondly, to the organizers, the three co-organizers, for having put together the show. And finally, to the attendees for their courage in sitting through this final session today. And finally, not forgetting the interpreters, who in particular have made my participation possible. So having said that, I thank you, and I wish the organizers and the Academy well in their future endeavors. Thank you.